Welcome to Mike Happens, a podcast that brings you inspiring, funny, and authentic stories about resilience, life's unexpected journeys, and the incredible strength of the human spirit. My name's Jay Conor Reilly, your host, and as a voiceover artist who's also navigating life with Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, I've learned firsthand that life's toughest moments often make the best stories. So, why this podcast? Well, first off, I do like telling stories. I think I have a lot of stories to tell. So that is definitely going to be part of the podcast. I also love humor, and I think combining that humor and the resilience of us as humans, I think will make for a great podcast. And to be honest, I think everyone has a story worth sharing. I have traveled a lot and I've seen a lot, so I do want to touch on that stuff, and I'm kind of excited to be able to dive into a little bit of my life too, and but also other people, and I do want to share stories of people's strength and just reminding us of our strength, right? Like we got to remember like our will, so a big part of moving forward and stuff is just your will to want to succeed no matter where you are physically, mentally, or emotionally. You really got to have that will. But, again, just want to be able to remind people of their strength and also make people laugh. I think laughter is one of the most powerful tools, especially in the toughest times. So I think that's something to consider in these days and just trying to move forward. Which I am going to tell a quick story. It's not going to be a full-blown story for a full episode. Again, this is just a quick intro episode to tell you what is going to come from Mike Happens. So, recently I had a shoulder injury, which I will dive into on another episode. Long story short, I'm in a sling in my left arm, and so I'm going to try to open something, and, I go into the utility drawer. I would say most of us have a utility drawer. Am I not mistaken? And most people, I would say, have scissors, a razor, something to open something, right? I go in there, I open the drawer, and recently, my partner put in lefty scissors. What did I injure? I injured my left arm, rather. And I couldn't use it at this point at all. So I'm like, okay. And I look down, there's no righty scissors in the drawer. I'm like, the irony of this, as a left-handed person that went most of my life, all of school for that matter, and dealing with maybe one crappy like left-handed scissor from like art class or something. But for the most part, I didn't have any left-handed scissors until I learned how to sew and realized that there was left-handed fabric scissors, and I was like, whoa, this is great when I was making clothes. So yeah, I'm in the drawer, and it's actually an old pair of my fabric scissors from when I made clothes, and I'm like, no righty scissors to be found. And I'm like, it figures. When I only have my right hand to use, I can't find the right-handed scissors. And in that moment, I wanted to scream almost, just because it was just a very frustrating time. I was having difficulty with just doing basic things, like everything. So when that happened, I was like, really? But, I ended up laughing it off, and I thought it was pretty hilarious. I just end up just literally laughing out loud to it, because I'm like, this is absolutely ridiculous. The likelihood, 90% of my life I go struggling to find left-handed things, and then lo and behold, I have a left-handed scissors in a situation where normally it's right-handed scissors. So, I think that's just a little snippet of some of the stories to come. You just gotta, I think, have a certain outlook at certain things and, realize that staying resilient and using humor to get through the difficult times really does help with some those challenges, especially the minor ones, because the minor ones can turn into a big one, and then, that 30 seconds of your day just ruined your whole day. So just keep that in mind, What to expect from the podcast. Kind of already touched on the why of the podcast, and I guess a little bit of the what. But, again, I want to tell stories of, people overcoming adversity and, the unexpected life pivots that life gives you. I'll also be touching on my stories too, in that kind of nature. And, I want to have conversations with people who have faced life's curveballs and continued moving forward and sharing their stories, whether they come on the podcast or I just share their story or whatever the case may be. And I would also like to touch on the funny moments that, you got to remind us to embrace the joy even in the challenging times and the times that are really difficult. And again, I'll also touch on my stories when we're not getting guests on and guest stories. And, I definitely want to touch on the whole shoulder incident that happened. That honestly, that might end up being its own episode, to be honest. I think we might have enough material for that. Another part of the podcast I want to cover and, expectation from the podcast is, I think a big key message to the podcast is going to be resilience and how resilient we are, the power of our willpower, right? And, I also think that resilience isn't always about being strong. There's more to it, right? There's willpower. I think it's also embracing your vulnerability and, laughing at life's absurdities, right? And another part of that, I think, is making sure to move forward one story at a time. Just keep on going, keep on moving, right? And so, I think that's going to be a big part of this podcast is going to be resilience. There is going to be some structure to the podcast, but again, I think it is going to be pretty loose. But you'll have an idea of what's coming, right? Next, I would say I want to start hearing people's stories. I want people to start sharing their stories, whether they email it to me and I, put it in an episode and talk about it, or we bring you on possibly to the podcast and see how that goes. I want you guys to submit. You can submit on social medias, or you can also email info@voiceswithj.com, or you can just go on my website. The email is there as well, voiceswithj.com. So you can go on there, email me, or you can find me on the social medias. My social medias is my name, Jay Conor Reilly, and you can submit from there. And thank you guys so much. And remember that, every story matters, especially yours. Well, that about wraps it up. Thanks for tuning in to Mike Happens Podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe on Spotify and available on my website, voiceswithj.com, and other streaming services. And join me each episode as we explore the beautiful, hilarious, and inspiring ways life shapes our stories. Until next time, remember, every story matters, especially yours.